In a tight-knit black suburban community outside Atlanta, everyone admires Marlene Jefferson, PTA president, Sunday school teacher, and wife of a beloved high school coach. But when a new federal fingerprint scan system quietly links her to an unsolved 1998 murder in Miami, agents reopen the cold case without alerting the press. Now Marlene must balance fundraisers, football banquets, and nosy neighbors, while an out-of-state detective closes in on the truth she buried 27 years ago. The mystery? Not just the murder, but how someone so visible, so trusted, could have vanished from her past and started fresh. Before we uncover today's case, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single clue, twist, or breakthrough in the stories to come. Now, let's dive into the case. The smell of lavender-scented candles lingered in the Jeffersons' hallway as Marlene closed the front door behind her, still clutching the half-empty tray of peach cobbler she'd brought to the PTA fundraiser. Her heels clicked softly on the hardwood as she passed the family photo wall. Marlene, in church white, beside Coach Russell Jefferson. Their two boys in matching polos grinning under an Easter arch. Perfect. Framed perfection. But beneath the warm southern gloss of her life, her hands trembled. She'd felt it all day. The glance from Mrs. Owens that lingered too long. The awkward silence when her name was announced for next year's PTA presidency. Even the way Principal Avery had smiled tight-lipped, apologetic. Something was off. By the time she set the tray down on the granite counter and turned to pour herself a glass of ginger ale, her phone buzzed on the island. Unknown caller. Marlene didn't flinch. She stared at it, breathing shallow. 3 more rings, then silence. Then a text. "This is Special Agent Dion McCall. We need to speak about a 1998 homicide in Liberty City, Miami. You may want a lawyer." The phone slipped from her hand and clattered across the floor. She stood there, frozen in her kitchen, the scent of cinnamon and candles mocking her. Liberty City. The name hadn't been spoken aloud in years. Not since she burned the photos. 3 days earlier. Quantico, Virginia. FBI Cold Case Division. Agent Dion McCall leaned over the monitor, eyes narrowing as a red matchbox blinked on screen. The new fingerprint match software coding name, Phoenix, was still in pilot phase, but it had already surfaced 3 hits on unsolved felonies in less than a week. This one was different. Case reference: Liberty City, FL, July 18, 1998. Victim: Harold Snap Santiago, gang-affiliated, execution style. Recovered print: partial thumbprint on handgun grip. Match 2, Marlene Jefferson. GA DMV license number 77J34Q9. McCall exhaled slowly. The print was 94% matched. Enough to quietly open a preliminary file. The woman had no criminal history in Georgia. Not even a parking ticket. But under the alias Naomi Fields, there were sealed juvenile records in Dade County. A sealed expungement order from 1999, post-probation. "Who the hell are you, Mrs. Jefferson?" he muttered. He reached for the intercom, requesting Miami field notes and Judge Hensley's 1999 sealed case files. And pull her recent phone metadata. Something doesn't add up. Back in Stonebridge Heights, the Jeffersons' backyard glowed under the string lights Coach Russell had put up last spring. From the living room, the sound of a high school football game crackled on the TV. Russell's voice boomed toward the boys upstairs. "Y'all better have that homework done before halftime." Marlene walked in with 2 glasses of iced tea. She smiled tightly. "That chicken you grilled earlier?" "Still got my mouth watering." He kissed her cheek without noticing the tightness in her tone. "You were a hit at the fundraiser?" "Always am." She sat down slowly beside him on the couch. But her mind wasn't there. She could hear the water running upstairs. Her sons laughing in the hallway. her husband adjusting the volume. She looked at her fingers resting on the tea glass. The same fingers that used to hold a Glock 19 behind a boarded-up liquor store on NU 62nd Street. She hadn't fired it. But she was there when he died, and she had touched it. Only once. That was enough, wasn't it? The next morning, Stonebridge Heights Elementary, front office. Principal Avery waited until the hallway was clear before calling her in. "Marlene," he said gently, motioning to a chair. "There's no easy way to say this. We received a call from the board about a federal inquiry involving you. I don't know the details, but they're asking about your fingerprint records, your background check." Marlene sat still. He paused. "Is there anything you want to tell me before the board escalates this?" She blinked slowly, then smiled. The smile she used when ushering kids through carpool in the rain or calming angry parents about vending machine snacks. "No," she said. "There's been some mistake. But thank you for the courtesy." When she walked back outside into the late Georgia sun, the light felt different, like it was shining through water. The gates of her life, polished and pristine, were starting to creak open, and someone was walking through them. Stonebridge Heights looked like the cover of a real estate brochure that had come to life. Manicured lawns, cheerful wreaths on identical doors, and the steady rhythm of sprinklers pattering on sidewalks. But beneath its carefully trimmed hedges and side-smiling neighborly waves, the air felt thinner than usual that Thursday morning. Marlene had already dropped off her youngest at school and told her husband she was headed to Sam's Club for PTA supplies. But instead of turning toward the highway, she drove 3 blocks past the shopping center and parked in front of a small storage facility behind a strip mall. Unit 24. She hadn't opened it in 14 years. Inside, nothing but a faded blue trunk and a garment bag that still smelled like mothballs. She knelt down and unlatched the trunk with trembling fingers. Beneath old church hats and a photo album nobody had ever seen was a plastic-wrapped envelope sealed tight, marked in black ink. NF, case copy 1999. Keep or burn. No middle ground. Her hands hovered. Burn it? Too late for that now. She tucked the envelope under her coat. Meanwhile, Atlanta FBI field office. Agent Diane McCall wasn't in a rush. He watched the birds wheel across the sky from his rental car window as he reviewed the case notes again. Naomi Fields, born in Opelika, Miami. Mother passed at 12. Group home. Ran with the Sincere Street set for 2 years. A minor bust for boosting cars, then silence, until now. He flipped through the Miami PD's old witness reports. One stuck out. Unknown girl, late teens, possibly named Nay, seen fleeing the back of the alley with blood on her jacket. Another line underlined in red. Santiago was under investigation as a known federal witness set to testify against the Sincere crew. So this wasn't just some gang beef. This was an execution. And someone had covered for her back then. Back in Stonebridge Heights. When Marlene got home, she was met with the unexpected. A charcoal gray Chevrolet Impala government plates was parked 3 houses down. A man with a clean-lined fade, a brown coat, and a coffee cup was standing across the street, looking too casual for someone who didn't belong. She didn't flinch. She'd had years of practice keeping her face still. Inside, she called her lawyer, or rather, her friend who owed her a favor from back when favors came with consequences. "Tanisha," she whispered, locking the door behind her. "He's here. How long before they move? Don't know yet. But I need you to run a name, Diane McCall, FBI, cold case. Liberty City, 98. Tanisha's voice dropped. "Damn, Mar. You think they're really about to open that mess again?" They already did. 30 minutes later, outside Stonebridge Elementary, Agent McCall watched from the shade of a nearby oak as Marlene Jefferson emerged from the building. not a single misstep. She moved like a woman who didn't owe the world anything, not her story, not her sorrow, not her past. But her hands gave her away. She kept adjusting her sleeves, even in the warm Georgia breeze. The same hands they found prints from, buried in an evidence box in Miami PD's cold basement files. He didn't approach her yet. Not today. Instead, he pulled out his phone and sent a message to a private inbox. She knows. Will initiate soft contact. Confirm judge who sealed original file. Pull juvenile witness list. Cross-check alias nay. He sipped his coffee. Let's see how long you last, Mrs. Jefferson. Flashback. Liberty City, Miami. Summer 1998. The air was wet with sirens. Back then, she was just Naomi. Or Nay, if you really knew her. Lean, sharp-eyed, 17, and furious at everything that moved too fast or too loud. She had one rule: stay invisible, stay useful. That night, Snap Santiago called her for a ride. She didn't ask why. He said it was urgent. Sighed he had to drop something off to the feds. She waited in the alley while he ran inside the barber shop. 10 minutes later, 2 shots cracked like thunder. She ran toward the sound because curiosity was stronger than fear, and saw him slumped on the chair, eyes open, blood on the mirror. The gun was still warm. She picked it up, just a second, then threw it into the dumpster behind her and ran. 2 weeks later, an older woman she'd never met handed her a bus ticket and a new name. You get one new life, the woman said. After that, whatever happens is on you. Present day, Marlene's kitchen. Marlene sat alone at the table, flipping through the sealed envelope. Inside, her court records. Juvenile sealed plea. The name of the public defender who vanished after 2001. A photo of her at 17. And a single name scribbled on the edge of the page, someone she hadn't thought of in decades. Cassidy Drew, MD-PD evidence clerk, confidential witness. Cassidy had been her roommate in the group home. She was there that night. She knew what really happened. And now? Marlene had no idea if Cassidy was alive. But if she was the only one who could tell the truth. And the only one who could bury it again. The name Cassidy Drew stayed on Marlene's tongue like a burn. She whispered it while staring at the ceiling that night, listening to the steady rhythm of her husband's snore and the creak of their old air vent pushing warm air through the ductwork. Cassidy. 17. Smart. Quick-witted. Her voice used to sing Toni Braxton down the hallway like the pain wasn't real. But the day after Snap Santiago died, Cassidy packed a single drawstring bag and never came back to the group home. The counselor said she'd been transferred, but girls like them didn't get transferred. They disappeared. If Cassidy was still alive, someone had helped her. And Marlene needed to know who. Next morning, Atlanta. Marlene drove to the West End, to a quiet storefront church tucked behind a faded pawn shop. The sign read, New Fire Restoration Ministries, Pastor L. Dandridge. Inside, the pews were empty, but for a heavy-set woman in a floral blouse who adjusted the Sunday program stacks. She glanced up. Marlene Jefferson, she said, half smiling. Ain't seen you here since your mother's repass. I need help, Miss Ora. Ora squinted. Help or silence? Both. They sat in the back pew, just like they had after the funeral 10 years ago. Back then, Marlene was grieving. Now she was preparing for war. I need to find someone, she said, voice low. Cassidy Drew. We were in the Dade system together. 1997 through 98. She vanished after the Santiago shooting. Ora leaned back, slowly. That ain't a name I've heard in 2 decades. But you remember her. I remember she liked to keep her hair wrapped tight and her secrets tighter. I remember she called me from a Florida payphone once in 2001 asking for a transfer contact in Alabama. Said she was going by Reedy now. Never heard from her again. Marlene's jaw clenched. Do you still have the payphone number? Ora nodded toward the back office. Maybe. You know who's looking for you, right? I know. Ora paused. They white or black? Marlene blinked. Black. Clean cut, real sharp. Ora grunted. That's worse. Meanwhile, Agent McCall. McCall watched the footage again. A feed from Stonebridge Elementary's East Hallway security camera. Timestamp. 2 days ago. Marlene walking briskly, calm, until she passed the office window. That half-second hesitation. Her hand moved to her collar. Nervous tells. He sipped his gas station coffee and flipped open his notebook. He'd spoken to the judge who sealed her juvenile file. He remembered Naomi Fields remembered being pressured to bury it. Sighed there had been calls from D.C. Back then, no one ever told him why. That made McCall itch. There was a witness listed on the sealed docket, a minor named Cassidy Drew, marked unreliable. But she hadn't testified. And the clerk who logged the docket? Gone missing in 2002. No paper trail. Everywhere he turned, the dirt had been swept clean with a federal-grade broom. Stonebridge Heights. That night. Coach Jefferson grilled burgers out back, his playlist bumping Frankie Beverly through the Bluetooth speaker. The boys laughed as they tossed a football in the fading light. Normal. Peaceful. Marlene stared from the kitchen window, her breath fogging the glass. In her hand, a sticky note from Ora's back files. R.D. Brewton, Al. Church of the Beloved Light. She ran her thumb over the name. Re-D. She knew what she had to do. Russ, she called, forcing a smile. I need to run to Birmingham tomorrow. Church ladies want me to pick up bulk decorations from the state vendor. Need me to come? No, she said quick. Boys got that tournament, remember? He nodded. I'll hold down the fort. Next morning, Brewton, Alabama. The Church of the Beloved Light stood off a red clay road, its siding washed pale by years of southern sun. A small congregation filed out of morning devotion, hats and fans bobbing under magnolia trees. Marlene stepped out of her rental, sunglasses low on her face. Then she saw her. Mid-40s, slim, faint scar over the cheekbone, hair pinned up in silver coils. Leading the choir dismissal. Cassidy, alive, but not surprised. She spotted Marlene immediately. Her body stiffened, eyes narrowed. Then, to Marlene's shock, she smiled and motioned with her chin toward the side garden. 10 minutes later, behind the church, Cassidy lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. Been waiting on this day since I heard about that fancy school board lady in Georgia with a familiar damn face. I didn't know if you were dead, Marlene said, voice tight. Well, I ain't. Just got good at hiding. You saw what happened that night, Cass. I did more than see. I saw who pulled the trigger. Marlene's eyes widened. It wasn't me. I never touched it except... I know, Nay. Cassidy's voice cracked. You picked it up to check if he was still breathing. But I saw the shooter. Marlene froze. Who? Cassidy hesitated. Then, slowly, a man in a white government car. Didn't have a badge, but the way Santiago begged before it happened, that man was fed. Or something worse. Marlene's stomach turned. They're not just reopening the case. They're covering their own tracks. Cassidy nodded grimly. And they think you're the only one left to blame. Cut to McCall's hotel room, Atlanta. Agent McCall's burner phone vibrated. New message. She found Cassidy. She's in Brewton. You'll need to move fast. He read it 3 times, then tossed the phone on the bed. Someone was watching him, too. Cassidy flicked the last of her cigarette into the flower bed. The choir had left. The sun beat down hard on the back garden of the tiny Alabama church. But even under that hot light, the past still clung like a shadow. You sure you want to stir this, Nay? She asked, folding her arms. "They already stirred it," Marlene said. "They're here. He's watching me. I think they wanted me scared enough to fold." Cassidy stared into the distance. "You ever wonder why you were never arrested back then?" "All the time," Cassidy exhaled. "Someone made you disappear. It wasn't me, wasn't the courts. But it was someone powerful enough to shut doors before they opened." Marlene blinked. "You mean the man who shot Snap?" Cassidy hesitated. "No, I mean the woman who picked you up outside the bus station. The one who gave you a new name and said, 'You get one life.' You ever ask who she really worked for?" Marlene's lips parted slowly. She remembered that woman's cold precision. Her blank smile. "You knew her?" Cassidy nodded. "Her name was Maris K. Renner, ex-Doge fixer. She protected witnesses. And sometimes ... she buried them." 2 days later, FBI field office, Atlanta. Agent McCall sat across from his supervisor, a tight-jawed man named Colburn, who always smelled like dry erase markers and expensive aftershave. "You're being reassigned," Colburn said flatly. McCall blinked. "Reassigned?" New directive came down from Legal and Archives. Apparently, the Liberty City case is being reflagged as a sealed federal matter. DOJ's Internal Security Unit pulled it. McCall clenched his jaw. "Pulled by who?" Colburn stared him down. "You don't need to ask that. She didn't kill Santiago. You know that, right?" Colburn leaned in. "That's not our concern anymore. You did your job. Now move on." McCall didn't move. "This woman has been a mother, a teacher, a leader in her community for over 2 decades. They're not just erasing a case. They're erasing her." Colburn stood. "And she be allowed to stay that way. But only if no one keeps digging." That evening, Stonebridge Heights. Marlene returned home in time for her son's football game. The sun was setting behind the bleachers, casting long shadows across the field. Russell waved from the stands, a nacho tray balanced in one hand. Their youngest had just made a tackle. The crowd erupted. She smiled. A full, aching smile. Cassidy was gone again, left without saying goodbye, like she always did. But before she left, she handed Marlene a flash drive. Inside it was a digitized recording of a VHS tape, old, grainy, hidden for years. The video showed the alley behind Snap Santiago's shop. The actual shooter, a federal agent Marlene had never seen before. And standing in the background, watching, but not intervening, was the same woman who had saved her, Maris K. Renner. Marlene deleted the file, not because she didn't believe it mattered, but because the truth didn't need to come through a courtroom anymore. It had already shaped her life, and she had chosen who she became anyway. Final scene, Agent McCall's desk. McCall opened a drawer and pulled out a copy of the cold case file. He stared at the words, Naomi Fields, closed. Cassidy Drew, deceased. Harold Santiago, homicide, unsolved. He slid the folder into his satchel, walked outside, and dropped it into a burn bin behind the parking lot. The flames took it fast. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "This is McCall. I'm done with cold cases. Put me on something where the truth actually matters." Final line, Marlene's voice. "They gave me one life. I made it count. But sometimes even buried truths leave footprints. And I'll spend the rest of my days making sure no one ever steps where I had to run." If you felt something watching this, don't scroll past it. Because the next case is like this, it's already on its way, somewhere. And the silence around it is already forming. This story wasn't about drama. It was about reality. About broken systems, blind spots, and decisions made too late. You don't need to be a detective to see the pattern. You just need to pay attention. So before it happens again, speak up. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Push for accountability. Don't wait for the cuffs or the body count. Your voice matters more than you know. Like, share, comment. Be part of the reason it doesn't happen again.